If you're the person in your friend group that does all the planning, you're usually the group leader in a group project, then you basically have pretty much the skill sets to become a program manager. This is part 3 of my program manager series. Part 1 was explaining what we actually do as a program manager, and part 2 was about the salary transparency, because let's be real, you're also looking for a career that you can sustain, especially in this economy when it's freaking expensive to live. And the topics that we'll cover today is 1, the skill sets you need to become a program manager. 2 is how you can transition into this role depending on like what role you have currently and that you're trying to decide if you want to go into it. 3 is also to prepare your resume. 4 is how to prepare for interviews / build connections. And then 5 is to kind of create your own luck. Again, to preference, this is based off of my experience and how I became a program manager. I'll talk about my personal experience too, getting into this role. Job hunt nowadays is really hard. I see how the market reacts. I mean, a lot of my friends are still looking for jobs. I potentially might have a layoff. So just understand that the market does what the market does. You can prepare the best that you can, but don't beat yourself up if this is like a really hard job to get into. It's just the market and like how it is. But yeah, just a preference. This is all personal experience, and yeah, it's just to be helpful information. First thing is skill sets you need to become a program manager. I can put my role description, the one that I applied to, somewhere here so you can kind of see. But based off of my experience, just to make it easy, there's 5 specific skill sets that I use on a daily and I think are pretty important to be a program manager. 1 is organizations in terms of efficient workflow. 2 is prioritization, so time management. 3 is communication, especially on the executive level. 4 is cross-functional leading, so be people orientated. 5 is relationship building, so building those connections. So let's first talk about organization. It's probably one of the easiest skill sets you can see on a resume. It's pretty common. It's basically a buzzword. It's like, but what does it actually mean in a corporate setting? So organization in a bigger corporate setting, especially in a program manager role, it's basically understanding how to efficiently have everything in a nice workflow. Are you using some sort of project management tool like Airtable, Jira, Asana? How do you keep everything kind of in an organized space that people can use? As a program manager, you'll be running it from start to finish, and there's going to be a lot of projects that are happening all at once. Having it all in like a centralized place and that everyone can kind of have their eyes on it, and that you have your eyes on it, you know exactly what's happening in each area of the project. That's what it means to actually be organized. So remember to kind of explain that in a lot of your interview calls or on the resume. To do this, you basically need to have clear guidelines, instructions, and communicate across all your teams. So examples include like creating a playbook for the program. A playbook's basically like what to-do list from the start of the program, the middle, and also at the end, and also even after. A centralized, maybe a Microsoft SharePoint where you can put all your files and assets. Creating a clear step-by-step guide for people kind of entering the program. If your program's like a cohort-based, like my role is, where I bring in startups, and when they go through my program, I'm running about 10 startups at a time. They know exactly where all the information is at. Prioritization. So this goes hand in hand with being organized, but being able to identify, discuss, and focus on prioritization are key areas of program management to help you actually not create burnout. This has so many projects going on that you will be overwhelmed. When I first started in my role, I was super overwhelmed the first like 4 or 5 months because I had no idea what was going on, and I just kept taking on projects, and then I was working later than I needed to. You want to be able to identify what parts of the program are more important to focus in on. 9 out of 10 times, there's only 1 or 2, 3 key areas that really need to be focused on, and everything else is just a want or not really necessary at the moment. To do this, remember to focus on what matters most in your role. 3 questions to ask yourself. What are your KPIs and key goals? Is this project a need or a want in order for the program to be successful? And do you have bandwidth, which is a fancy term for time, to take on this project? 3 is communication, another buzzword that you'll see on a lot of resumes. But what is communication actually? So communication is the ability to be able to talk to your colleagues, talk to executives, and be able to present your ideas, the outcomes, and the results of whatever the program is. To be honest, it's probably the biggest skill set that will get you ahead in your career regardless of what kind of role that you want. How are you communicating with your colleagues and also your leaders and stakeholders? So I put executive communication. This is something I learned recently in the past year, was because I was working closely with CEOs and bigger stakeholders. Like I'm like a T2 levels higher, like the VPs, SVPs, and everyone on top. How are you able to communicate if you're put into a room with them and have a decent conversation, are basically talking on the same level and they don't look at you like a kid? I'm more on the young side of a PM, especially like when I first joined. I had to kind of build that confidence and also be able to speak at a slower pace, understand that I don't need to rush anything, and also know exactly what I'm talking about to be prepared. Having a stronger communication will earn you a little bit more respect within the workplace. I know it's a lot of corporate politics, but this is something that I would say, if you're going to become a program manager, learn how to communicate in both like speaking, meetings, and email format. So cross-functional leading. So what does that actually mean? It's basically a fancy term for working with a bunch of different teams. I can almost guarantee you that you'll be working with a lot of different teams, and you have to make sure that everyone's aligned on like your vision or what the program goals are, and then be able to motivate them to support you. So for example, for me, when I work with my startups, like there are parts when they want to do a press release or do some marketing and go to market sales. So then I have to reach out to the communications team, I have to reach out to the marketing and press release team, and then tell them like what's going on and why do we need to get this published and how they can support us and also how it can benefit them. Communication and cross-functional leading kind of go hand in hand together, and being people oriented. This role, you'll be talking to a lot of people, so just heads up. So ability to work with many different teams, ability to motivate other colleagues and get their support, and then communicate the program so everyone kind of understands what's happening. The last one is relationship building and connections. So you'll be working with a lot of people, as I mentioned before, and it's important to actually build these relationships, not just be like, hey, like I need this. So connection is everything in the corporate world, whether you like it or not. Get to know your manager, get to know like your manager's manager, people within the program, get to know your cohort. Building relationships is key, maintaining them is really important, and also that connections is pretty much everything. So bring your whole self to work and it will attract the right crowd. You don't need to fake it, you know, like be yourself. I'm pretty much myself during most of my meetings. How I talk to this camera is pretty much how I am in most of my meetings too, just a little bit more corporate-y. But overall, those are the 5 skill sets that you need to become a program manager. This part is going to be the longest section of this actual video. How can you transition into this role? Depending on the areas that you work in, whether it's marketing, HR, sales, technical, engineering, etc., etc. If you want to transition into this role, it's more that you will probably be taking more of a leading role. So if you're used to like leading projects and working with different teams and talking to people, it's gonna be a decent transition over. I think program management doesn't need too many technical skills, but excel in a lot of the soft skills and also being able to do a lot of the big projects. When you want to transition to your role, start kind of jotting down all the projects that you've done, and also start looking in turn to what type of program management that you want to look into. For example, the easiest ones like HR. So HR, they have like learning programs, early talent programs. In sales, in our org specifically, there's like a sales program. Account executives or business development representatives are coming into the program, and they're getting like a 3 to 6 month jump start so that they can get accumulated to our company. So you can kind of look for like certain types of roles like that. So now, how to prepare your resume. What I did was I focused a lot on the projects I led. Initially a marketing person, so then when I transitioned into this role, I was talking about the projects I did. So I helped develop the old company team's website. I helped lead like a couple campaigns that we did. Project where I helped lead like their reservation system. So I was working with like other engineers and designers. So I was working with cross-functional teams. For your resume, kind of start preparing like those kind of projects that you're looking for. And then when you have a specific role that you're looking at, let's say like you're on LinkedIn and you see this role for program management. If you really, really like that role, like you have your heart to it, I have a different perspective where I don't mass apply. I very much target apply. So I'll adjust my resume just a little bit to really focus into like the information that they want. So if it's like go to market, they want to work with partners, partner relations, I'm going to add those words into my resume so it pops up a little bit more. So that's kind of how you want to prepare your resume. How to prepare for interviews. Have a Google Doc. I always have my own Google Doc of like how I should have a 1 to 2 minute pitch of myself, like who I am. Like, hi, my name is Brian Lay. I am currently the program manager at XYZ company. During my time, I ran 4 programs. I worked with over 32 founders and 32 startups. I love building connections with my partners and the cohort. My 4 main skill sets is partner relationships, go-to-market marketing, business development, and then cross-functional management. Prepare for questions like, you know, tell me about a time that you led a project. Super basic. Tell me about a time that you had a disagreement with like a colleague and how you dealt with it. A lot of problem solving. And then also like maybe walk me through something that you initiated, like a project that you did. It's gonna be a lot of questions regarding how you lead, how you communicate, and how you work with other teams / discussions and management. So that's how I would say kind of start preparing for your interview. There's a whole different video that could be made on, but I know there's so many videos out there on interview prep. But the number one thing I would say is just bring your authentic self to your interviews. Like, you're also interviewing the company. I also made jokes here and there too. I don't like being like a stone-faced wall. It's just not fun for me. A lot of hiring basis is based off of skill sets, but also like how you click with that person. I'm pretty sure I'm a personality hire, so I'm still doing good work, so it's fine. 5 is create your own luck. How I got lucky with my job is look internally. Like, if you can get into like a company that's like an internship, look internally for like job referrals, and then also talk to like people on LinkedIn that's like within the same company. Again, there's that whole like reach out, have a coffee chat. It is very tiring, 100% understand. People have reached out to me too, and then sometimes I will either answer or not answer depending on like how they reached out. Did they do their research? So if you're really interested in someone, pick on that. Like, I had a friend who reached out to me because he was actually a dancer, and at heart I'm also a dancer. So he was like, hey, I'm actually looking at your old internship role. By the way, are you like, were you on like this team? Because I was also on this other team. And then because he was a dancer, I was like, all right, cool. Another person that loves the arts. So I accepted his request, and then we hopped on a call, gave him a little bit of interview prep and background, and he actually got the role. Now he's my work bestie on a different team. Kind of create your own luck that way by making opportunities to build a lot of these connections. When I got my role, I actually didn't think I was gonna get the program manager role. My past manager apparently sent some email, I have no idea what he put on that email, to the hiring manager that I was interviewing with. And we had our second interview round, and she told me like, oh yeah, your old manager reached out, said some really good things about you. And honestly, I think that was like the tipping point to decide to pick me for the role. Communications and building relationships is everything, whether you like it or not. And just be authentic. If you really want to get to know the person, they're gonna want to hire you. Final thoughts. Thank you again for watching. I think that was a lot of information. Again, skill sets, how to transition, resume, preparing for interviews, and creating your own luck. Again, I know it's really hard out there. Like, the economy is so bad, and I know how hard it is out there. You're validated if you're feeling that the job market's like unfair to you, if you're burnt out from things. Again, take some rest, feel energized once you are to apply to certain roles. Yeah, this is the end of the series. So part 1, part 2, part 3. Hopefully that's enough information to kind of kickstart your guys' goal to become a PM, or at least get the skill sets of a PM. If I don't stay becoming a PM for the rest of my life, that's okay, because I gained a lot of experience through it. I gained a lot of confidence and communication stuff through it. So take a chance on what you believe, and just, yeah, use this video as an information resource. Thank you again for watching the whole video. Thank you again if you watched all 3 parts of the series. We would really appreciate that like and subscribe. And then next week I'll be talking about what's next for me in terms of like where this channel is gonna go and everything. But I'll say that for later. Peace.